Do you know what your credit score is? And if you know what your credit score is, do you know how to look it up periodically? Do you know how to protect it? Do you know why it's important? Well, we're going to answer all of those questions and more, all about your credit rating and what it reveals about you. So stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Yeah, today we're talking about a very important topic. No matter how old you are, it's important to know about your credit rating. And we have the perfect guest for that today. We're going to talk to Tom Quigley, who is Chief Sales Officer and Vice President of Lending from Garden Savings Federal Credit Union. Hi, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. And I do also want to mention to our listeners out there that we are very appreciative to Garden Savings Federal Credit Union because they are the sponsor of today's Scan FYI.
It's our pleasure,
thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, credit ratings, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It affects everything you do in life. The younger you are, especially, but as you get older, it affects you too. You know, when you're younger, you can't get a job, you can't get an apartment, you can't get a car, you can't get anything without knowing your credit score, because that is your permanent record. When your teachers told you this will go on your permanent record, it's your credit score. So you have to know it, you have to protect it, because your parents can't make it better for you, and it's all about you as a person and how responsible you are. So it's important, yeah.
Well, there you go. It's all about you, and it does indicate your level of responsibility. And so, Tom, what does that mean? If somebody says, "Well, what does that mean?" What do you mean it says how responsible I am? What does that mean?
Well, the rule of thumb is if you can't manage your own money, well, then you can't manage my company's money. So that's why it affects your job. When you get an apartment and they check your credit score to see if you pay your bills on time, it affects that. It affects a lot of things. Here's a funny little story. I mean, you've all heard of Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett has a band called the Coral Reefer Band. Jimmy Buffett's like 75 years old. The only reason it's called Jimmy Buffett and the Coral Reefer Band is because he had good credit when he was younger, and he was able to rent all the equipment they needed for their first gig. And so he said, all right, the name of the band's going to be Jimmy Buffett. And look how that worked out.
Well, that worked out really well for him, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say.
But now, when you say to somebody, what is your credit score? And of course, I know you go get an apartment. Naturally, unbeknownst to you, that landlord is going to check your credit score. So I always think it's good to know your credit score in advance before somebody else, just in case it's not good. But how do you, I want to word this correctly. What's a good credit score? It's a numerical situation. So could you explain that a little bit in case somebody listening doesn't understand that?
Yeah, it's kind of easy. The credit scores go from 350 to 850 or 300 to 850.
All right, that's a big spread.
That's a big spread. So almost nobody is 300. And honestly, almost nobody is 400. I've never seen it. I mean, the lowest I've ever seen was 470, which is really bad credit. That person had 2 bankruptcies in their history. And it's not the end of the world, by the way, but I'm just saying that that's the number that they had. 850 is perfect credit. It means you're very responsible. You get a lower rate on every loan. Everything you buy is better because you're responsible with money. But considering that scale, if you are around 700, give or take 10 points on either side, 20 points on either side, that's good credit. 800 is very good credit. 600 is, questionable. But the lower your credit score, the more interest you pay because there's more risk in loaning you money. So
what are the things that you do, each of us as a consumer, that is impacting my credit score? Paying your bills, obviously. Is there anything else?
I mean, there's many factors. I mean, the big one is when you pay a bill late, it's a red mark and it's hard to get rid of. It stays on your credit report for a while. So don't be late. But there's so many other factors that you don't even realize. For example, if you have credit cards, say you have $10,000 broken up into 3 credit cards, and that's your limit, but you have $9,000 charged, so you're carrying a balance of $9,000. That's 90% of your available credit you're using.
Right.
That's bad. That hurts your credit. So you never want to be above 30% of your credit, of your
Oh,
available credit. So if you take that same person who's at $9,000 who spent 9,000 of $10,000 in credit, it's almost better for that person to go out and get another credit card to bring that number down. It's harder to pay it off, but if you don't charge, if you have more available credit and you don't use it, that helps your credit score. So there are other things you can do. I mean, but the big one is paying bills on time. Don't pay the minimum. I mean, if you have no choice, make the minimum payment on a credit card. But if you can pay more because that helps you. So always remember, debt is not your friend. So you want to get out of debt as fast as you
right.
can. That's just the
Definitely
rule
not
of
your
thumb,
friend.
And,
So
and I'm a lower.
are you better off when your credit card bill comes and whatever the balance is, whether it's 500 or 3,000, are you better off to pay it off in what, just to have a zero balance? I mean, is that better for your credit?
Well, it's better for your peace of mind and your psyche.
Oh, that's true.
It's probably not better for your credit because they want you to carry the banks and the creditors want you to carry a little balance, quite honestly. That's how they make their money. It's when you carry a balance. Because your first 28 days, there's no interest. So if you charge $500 and you pay it off, you pay the interest. And that's a good way to be. The problem is that it helps your credit, but it doesn't make your credit perfect. To have perfect credit, honestly, one of the things you have to do is use that credit, spread it out, maybe charge your gas, pay it off. If you buy something big, maybe pay it off over a couple of months. That's fine. But for your own peace of mind, we at Garden Savings suggest pay off whatever you could pay off because debt is not your friend.
No, I don't think debt is ever your friend. That's for sure. But if you get yourself in hot water and your credit, you've been late on your bills, let's say, and so maybe you want to be buying a car next year or something like that. What can you do to raise your credit score?
That is a great question, Andrea. A great
Well, I
question.
had to get one in there. Yeah.
That happens to everybody. Everybody's late with something. A check gets lost in the mail. Maybe you forgot about a payment. That happens, and your credit comes down. But if you know that your car is on its last legs and you're gonna have to make a big purchase and you're gonna have to take out a loan, the best thing you can do for yourself is get current. Don't be late with anything. Anything. Get current with everything, and that means sacrificing other places. Maybe you don't go out Saturday night because you have to pay your bills instead. That's part of the deal.
Right.
Get current with everything. Try to get a little bit of money in the bank because often they're going to ask you to put money down on a loan. So say you want to borrow $10,000 and the car is only worth $10,000. So when you drive off the lot, it's not worth $10,000, but that's what you're going to owe on it. So if you can come up with a little bit of a down payment, that would be smart. And quite honestly, systematic savings is the way out of this. Take your paycheck. I don't care if it's $20 a week. $20 into an account that you don't touch. Get a savings account, start every week, and don't touch it. Because now when you need the car, you have your down payment. If something happens, it could be something as simple as you need a new windshield that's not covered by insurance. You have the money for it. You don't have to charge it. The point is to limit how much exposure you have, how much charging you're going to do, how much borrowing you have to do. Because the more you borrow, the harder it is to pay it back. So start saving systematically every single week and have it come right out of your paycheck, almost like a Christmas club. And that's a good way to start.
I've always heard the expression pay yourself first. So
Exactly right.
you get and you're right, whether it's $20, $100, whatever you can put aside. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
I feel like a lot of people are just one paycheck away from a disaster. And
Well, you're right.
yeah.
They just did the Wall Street Journal just did a survey not too long ago. 60% of Americans cannot come up with $500 if an emergency happened. $500. So that's a lot. So you don't want to be one of those 60%. You want to be independent. So you have to pay yourself first. So when you get your paycheck, if you don't have it automatically deducted, which is the best way to do it, then write yourself or take $30 and put it in a savings account and just leave it there. Only you can put it in, only you can take it out. If you know you can get by without it, scrimp and save some other places. Before you know it, that $30 becomes a couple $100. And by the way, the important thing to note is that when you get like a bonus at work or a raise at work or your tax check kicked back to you from the government, stick some of that in that bank. Build it up. You need savings. You need money. And if you can, I would also say set money aside for your retirements. It's never too early because Americans are woefully unprepared for retirement. So there's two things you have to consider: money for yourself to use, money for your retirement. But go to any bank or any credit union and they can help you set up those accounts for you.
And I guess while you're taking care of that and you're paying your bills, then you're going to improve your credit score over time, I guess slowly but surely. What do you think? I didn't think of it. I just thought of this right now, Tom, but every so often you see these commercials for these organizations that make the claim that they're going to repair your credit and, they charge you a fee. Is this a legit thing?
That is the $1 million question. If it's a for-profit company, which is hard to figure out, then probably not. Probably they're going to be charging you fees that they're making money, and they're going to do exactly what you can do yourself. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to send you a copy of your credit reports, and they're going to say, "Hey, check these out. Is there anything here that doesn't belong? Maybe there's a Sears late payment from 5 years ago, but if you never had a Sears card, it's got to come off." So you can do it yourself. I mean, you can do all the things that they're going to do for you. You can do yourself and not pay them the fee. If it's a not-for-profit one, they're probably going to be a little bit better. But honestly, I tell our people stay away from those completely. At Garden Savings, we have certified financial counselors in every branch. Go in, sit down, and talk to them, and they'll explain to you what your plan should be, what your course of action should be. But it all comes back to you.
Well, you brought up a really important point too, that if why it's so important for you to review your credit report, because what if there's something on there and it's not you, or something that's totally wrong? If you don't review it, it'll just live there forever and be a mark against you.
Well, ironically, that happened to me when I went to high school.
It happened to me too. So yeah.
When I went to high school, there were 4 Tom Quigleys in my school.
Oh my God!
In my school, and it's not that common of a name, quite honestly. But there were 4 of us, and one of them was a little bit of a troublemaker. Great guy, a lot of fun, a little bit of a troublemaker. He somehow, his credit, because our names were exactly the same, our birthdays were very close. Somehow his credit ended up on my credit, and I only found out it was him because we both knew the same guy that we were calling to complain about it. But it happens. There are mistakes on everybody's credit report. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, they'll send you your credit reports. You can do that once a year. All 3 credit scores: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, the 3 big credit companies. You get your report and you have to take a pencil and go through it. Say, that's not good. That's not good. It also lets you know what's involved. You might have a store account that you haven't used in 5 years, but it had a late payment on it that's still hanging in there.
Right.
So some things you really have to look at it. And if you get your credit score or your credit report, you can bring it to one of our branches. Our certified counselors will help you go through it.
So I'm going to put all of that information in the comments and whatnot, annualcreditreport.com, as well as the 3 other ones, because again, I feel like the onus is on all of us to take some responsibility, because if you didn't get the car loan, you didn't get the mortgage, you didn't get that apartment or even the job, and it had to do with your credit score, then you got to really jump on that and take action.
Yeah, and the worst of all those is when you don't get a job. Here you interview, it's a good job, you want it, you make your best presentation, you go for it, they offer you the job, and then they say, subject to a credit history. And what are you going to say? No, don't do that. they have to do it, and they're going to find out a lot about you. But that is the worst part. So I encourage everybody. My own two daughters I have, they're married in their 30s now. I mean, they have 825 credit because at a young age, I told them save, 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 be responsible. If you borrow money, pay it back. That's all there is to it, and do it as fast as you can because debt is not your friend.
I think that's the theme here. Debt is not your friend.
I think
Well,
it
it
is.
isn't. It's definitely not your friend. And it's just not a person you want in your social circle by any means.
That's for sure. That is for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, Tom, thank you for really enlightening us. And special thanks to Garden Savings Federal Credit Union for sponsoring today's episode of FYI. So we'll
Well,
put
thank
all
you.
of Tom's contact info in the comments as well if you want to reach out and find out more. And check your credit. Definitely check your credit. You can do it yourself. So I would just want to remind everyone, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. Bye,
Thank
Tom.
you, Andrea.